When people say they traveled to Europe, they mean they visited 15 major cities in 10 days for their Instagram account. The best unpopular opinions from anonymous strangers of the internet. The most annoying people in the world are those who are always happy. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's outrageous how many people I've talked to who have said, "Oh, I'm always happy. Life is too short to be sad." No, it isn't. You're a living being, not a robot. Being sad is natural and normal. I really hate interacting with people like this, which is one reason I'm glad I don't work at a grocery store anymore. These people aren't living in reality. Reality and being realistic is the best way to be. Being in a fantasy world where nothing bad happens is not healthy. I remember starting to feel like this, and I eventually walked away from an encounter like this, basically shaming myself like, who am I to judge them? But then I realized these people are lying to themselves. Unless they have a medical condition, they cannot possibly be always happy. What they're really saying is that they don't want to get involved and only have time for interactions that benefit them personally. The Empire was a more effective government than the Republic in Star Wars. Let me explain. The Republic was corrupt. It had greedy politicians and different government factions. Not to mention it allowed places like Tatooine and Jakku to be controlled by gangs and thugs. On top of all of this, they weren't respected in their authority as shown in The Mandalorian, and in that same series was shown time after time prioritize a few main planets while neglecting the Outer Rim. This leads me to my main point. The Empire was respected in their authority, and as long as your planet wasn't a threat and you weren't either, then you are fine. During the Empire's rule, you can see that they were far more effective in their authority by sending stormtroopers to most planets they controlled. On top of that, as seen in The Last Jedi, that one casino was clearly on a planet that was affected by the First Order's rules, so we can only assume that such free market ideas were held by the Empire as well. Lastly, I am not trying to argue that the Empire was a good government, just that they were more effective. However, in the early stages of their rule, also known as when they were just terrorist groups, the Republic committed far more deadly atrocities than the Empire. They blew up 2 Death Stars, and, if we take into account that the second time it was blown up that there were likely independent contractors on it to have a Death Star almost rebuilt in less than a year, then we can estimate that billions of innocents were killed in each explosion. Now, this wouldn't be damning in of itself, but the Republic risked civilian lives, the Gungans, and when fighting the Federation, which was eliminated swiftly by the Empire in the third movie. They sent out real people to fight, and not only that, corrupted the Jedi Order to the point where they became a weapon of the Republic when they are supposed to be judicial in their decisions. The Empire didn't risk real people when starting the Clone Wars. They sent out droids. What about the stormtroopers? You may ask. Well, they weren't sent out on dangerous missions with the Empire knowing their lives may be lost as the Republic did. They were essentially soldiers doing their normal patrols and following orders, and some terrorists come and killed them while they were doing their job. A smaller house is better than a large house. Last year we downsized from 1,500 square feet to 850 square feet, and it has changed our life. The amount of time my family spends cleaning, maintaining, and doing chores is 25 to 30% of what we used to do. I'm putting more money away into savings than ever before. I have more time for my outdoor hobbies, and more financial ability to fund them. We did sell and throw out a lot of stuff in the process and are definitely a little more minimalist these days. Not saying it's for everyone, but it's been a great change for us. The reason so many marriages fail is because people love themselves more than they love their spouse. Exactly what it says, marriage is a commitment. This cut out what no longer serves you culture is bullshit. People are not disposable. Are you? What about your kids? Neither is your spouse. People focus too much on being right, and not enough on trying to understand why their mate is. Insert any emotion here. People are so focused on finding a mate that they forget to make sure they actually like the one they find. As well as this, I would also say that part of the reason that divorce rates are higher now is because of higher financial independence. When women couldn't work, they couldn't really survive without their husband. That's not really an issue now. Real love is not ephemeral, and it certainly isn't conditional. Love is humble, not angry, selfish, or prideful. Somebody replied, "My friend is a marriage counselor and she is very smart. She hypothesizes 10% of marriages are actually happy and healthy. 50 to 60% get divorced. 30% to 40% should be divorced but don't or can't for various reasons: kids, money, health issues." I don't care about animal testing. Okay, so right off the bat I'm going to seem like a bad guy, but hear me out for 1 second. Everyone is so quick to play white knight and say, "Oh, I'm so against animal testing," and that's fair, until you realize those same people are picky on which animal should suffer and which should not. Think about crows. If someone ran over a crow, they would most likely go, "Dang, that sucks," but imagine they run over a puppy. It's a whole different story. Same thing with bug spray and chemical testing. How come a poor bunny shouldn't be tested on, but insects are given horrible deaths and tested on themselves? It's because we can't empathize with bugs. Bugs are gross and small. If I can't see it suffering, I don't care. Logic is used by everyone, but not everyone knows it. And until we care about the suffering of all creatures, I'm not going to choose one just because other people do as well. Somebody replied, "The line people draw between creatures they care about and creatures they do not care about is arbitrary. Each person has their personal beliefs and hierarchy of values. For example, I personally do not really care about pigs, chicken, dogs, cats, etc., and I value human well-being above that. It just so happens that human well-being is improved by reducing consumption of animal products to some extent. Most people care about dogs and cats, but not about chicken and pigs. Some people care about pigs, but draw the line at fish." These beliefs are also very hard to change in other people or yourself, so if you want to change one's mind, it is not an effective argument. You need to understand that many people look at chicken like you look at cockroaches. Something in their moral system just does not assign value to chicken. Also, intelligent can have many meanings. Animals definitely have brains, but they are very different from humans in terms of how they function. Yes, cows have best friends and pigs have the processing power of 3-year-olds, but that still does not allow humans to bond or hold conversations with them, and it can be hard to extend empathy or moral consideration to something that you cannot bond with. But my point was not that it would be hypocritical, just slightly inconsistent, and that is fine. Humans are inconsistent by nature, it's just not useful when convincing others. Maybe it's not cockroaches, but there will be some sort of harm to an animal that you will consider to be acceptable at some point, maybe killing rats during the Black Plague. It is impossible to draw a line which does not produce a gray area on which people will attack you. For example, if you are fine with killing rats during the Black Plague, anyone can say that you should also be fine with them killing fish to get their weekly dose of omega-3 fatty acids. Both are contexts in which animals die and human health benefits. Canoe Reeves is not a saint, he just behaves like a normal, nice person. Canoe Reeves does a lot of nice, down-to-earth things. He only seems like a saint because everyone in Hollywood and the press is self-absorbed. He does a lot of things that would commonly be expected of good citizens and gets excessive praise for it because he exists in the limelight. I don't think he's a bad person deep down, but there's a chance that some of his motivation could come from knowing that people will notice him doing good things, whereas the average person just does good things because it is good and right without expecting any recognition or reward. Even when you don't count things his like charity works or his glowing impressions from his interactions with fans, he's better than average. You compared him to a normal nice guy. A normal nice guy takes a shift on a weekend for someone, and they are still getting paid. Canoe takes a pay cut and gifts his co-workers for helping him even though they are just doing their job. When the plane he is on was forced to land, he organized transportation for everyone and they went on a road trip to the destination. Regardless of the person's circumstances, the average person would not have done that even if the help was welcome. The average person wouldn't have even thought of it and would have been busy concerned about how their own plans have been changed. Still a good role model, but not as impressive as people make it out to be. I hate that places are dog-friendly and a lot have become de facto dog-friendly. I want to enjoy places without having to encounter a dog. I went to a brewery tonight and didn't know it was pet-friendly. I would not have gone if I had known. All of a sudden, an unleashed dog was there and it made a beeline straight for us. It came up and licked my wife. I had to kick it to get it away from her before the idiot owner realized what was going on. I fucking can't stand that I can't just enjoy a beer, eat a meal, or even go to a fucking store without encountering dogs. It's fucking absurd that people are taking them to grocery stores. Even well-behaved dogs are a problem, because everyone sees that dog and then wants to go everywhere with their dog that may or may not be trained. And now employees are being taken advantage of more than ever out of fear of lawsuit and fear of confrontation with an entitled dog owner. This shit sucks and I wish it would stop. Somebody replied, there was an unleashed dog running around the grocery store yesterday. The owner just acted like it was normal. It was very inappropriate. Their dog could have been hit by a cart, or kidnapped, destroyed fresh meat they have to pay for, or run out into the parking lot and got hit. His response was he always does this, he likes it. Also, what if the dog bit someone? Then he may end up losing that dog. Working hard is not a boast. It's just so weird to me that people are trying to brag about how they are selling their souls to their bosses by working like 60 or more hours a week. Working less days a week with a healthy social life, fun hobbies, and lots of time to relax is a flex to me. Working 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. isn't. The worst part is that many of them even shame me for wanting to work 4 days a week. Like what? I work to live, I don't live to work. Somebody replied, if I may give some advice, if you have that much work, your boss needs to start hiring people. Working 24/7 for yourself is great and all, but believe me when I say that that shit comes at a cost. Both physically and mentally, and certainly socially. Coming from someone who used to work 24/7 and all of a sudden realized his godchild turned 8 and he had no idea if he was there on the 6th and 7th birthday. His body gave him a huge warning with a heart scare, and his girlfriend packed her bags to go live at her mom's again. Stand-up comedians making fun of people in the audience is not funny. While I sometimes see how it can be funny, most of the time the comedian is making fun of someone's looks or their date or their fashion sense. The person in question could be incredibly insecure about something and the comedian would make fun of it. Jokes like, oh, how are you on a date with someone who looks like that? Or things to that effect. There was one where some dude's body hair was commented upon. I know a lot of people enjoy it and I know there's an argument to be made that we can all learn to take a joke. But people came to laugh and have a nice time, not be dragged during your performance. Just make your jokes without being mean. Somebody replied, don't go to a comedy show if you're sensitive about being made fun of. I know it's 2022 and humor has been cancelled, but I'm old enough to remember when people could take a joke and move on. It's like any other part of comedy, there are comedians who are good at crowd work and comedians who are bad at it. Any Canadian on this sub who had to endure the reign of Mike Bullard on late night TV knows what I'm talking about. Travel does not make your life meaningful. Eleanor Roosevelt said that poor minds talk about people. Average minds talk about events. Great minds talk about ideas. I would preface that statement with destitute minds talk about places. 95% of conversation, and social media activity, these days seems to be about where people have been. Maybe not everyone is like this, but the well-traveled people I know call themselves that after visiting 6 states. When people say they traveled to Europe, they mean they visited 15 major cities in 10 days for their Instagram account. Conversations bankrupt of any meaningful topics in a world where so many issues scream to be addressed. It's staggering. Makes you wonder how consciously it's a reflection of the systematic thought policing taking place in the country today, travel being a safe topic. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for your government to be overthrown by the empire.